Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for tuning in to Solidarity Live. This is where we take questions and stories from our community here in Somerville and Medford. I try to bring in some experts to talk about what's happening and how we're being affected by COVID. And then together we figure out how we can solve our issues. You can always make a comment in YouTube and I can pull that comment in. We can answer it live, so don't hesitate. And I am going to bring in my first guest for the day, which is Nicole Mosalem. Tell me if I said that right, because I think I used to pronounce your name wrong.
David.
Hey.
You got it.
Wonderful. Nicole, so happy to see you. Yeah, so there's different things we can chat about. I think if we can start, I would love to have you just say who you are, and we will begin with the conversation about the Muslim community here and Ramadan, and then after that, I'd love to talk a little bit about your run for state rep.
Sure. So basically, I'm the director for the Islamic Cultural Center of Medford. In that role, I help with programming, I oversee administration. I'm a woman of many hats, doing my best to serve the community in that capacity. And then, as you mentioned, we're in a separate vein, I'm also running for state representative of 35th Middlesex, which covers both Malden and a great big chunk of Medford.
Fantastic. So can you talk about the Islamic Cultural Center and its mission and sort of what you do there?
Yeah, so the Islamic Cultural Center of Medford, or ICCM for short, they seek to provide spiritual programming for our community, help to strengthen our youth in their identity as well as in their service. And we also seek to be of service to the community at large. So we did.
Oh, hey. So, yeah, hey, JT. I apologize. I think I answered the call from you, and I accidentally lost Nicole and Paula. Let me see if I can grab them. I was right in the middle of talking to Nicole. Good to see you.
I have no idea how to use Skype for this. You just ping me when you're ready.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. I am going to grab the two of them. So hang on, everybody. JT is coming right up. Okay, I'm dialing them in. We're going to have them on the line in just a second.
Hello.
Nicole, I am so sorry. We had a Skype kerfuffle. So let me go ahead. I don't yet have your video. I've got JT on here with Nicole's name under him. Oh, there we go. Okay, I'm going to switch. I'm going to switch out JT. I'm going to switch in Nicole. All right, we're doing this thing here. Brilliant. I think we've got everybody on the call now, so that's great. So Nicole, so sorry about the interruption. If you can chat a little bit about, you were talking about the mission of the Islamic Cultural Center, providing, sort of spiritual space for them, and if you don't mind picking up from there.
Okay, so the last piece you heard then was the service to our community? Okay. I don't know when exactly it got cut off, but basically, so we provide that strong foundation for our own community, for our youth to be able to have a strong identity, especially in service to the community at large. And then we also strive to be of service to all of Medford and the greater Boston area by providing programs such as the Open Mosque Day. We hosted Medford Conversations, which are circles where people can gather to discuss relevant topics of the community and get to know one another. So we do quite a broad range of programming. We've only been open for a little over a year now. In February was when we celebrated our 1-year anniversary.
Wow.
And right before everything that's recently happened, we had quite a bit of programming that we had planned to kick off, and that's okay. My mind went blank, but I was going to say it's just going to make it that much stronger when we do roll it out.
We're sort of all in the same boat on that front. Like everybody's programming, doing everything had to be canceled, and it's so great that there is this physical space for the Muslim community in the area. And I imagine that you, given your role, that you hear from a lot of the Muslim families and the Muslim people in the area. And I'd love to kind of ask you, how is that community faring during COVID-19?
It's I would say about the same as everybody else. They have their struggles dealing with, being at home, having children at home, bouncing off the walls.
Which both you and I know about.
Yep. But I think what's very unique for our community at the moment is that it's Ramadan. And in fact, today began the most spiritually intensive time of Ramadan, the last 10 days, where we seek a very strong divine connection with God. And we usually do that communally. And part of that is to spend the last 10 nights inside the mosque. There are some people who will make a vigil there, and they never step even a foot outside the mosque the last 10 days of Ramadan.
Wow.
And this is a very special observance. And, a lot of people are struggling with that this year spiritually. And so we're doing our best to provide that programming to help fill that space. We've been doing Zoom prayers. We have a special prayer every single night during Ramadan. And so people have been doing that congregationally as best as possible via Zoom. We've been having lectures via Zoom. And it's really led to a lot of creativity for our community. And I'm proud to say many of us have risen to the challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure that is tough to have that going on at the same time.
Yeah, and especially Ramadan, for myself, one of the things that I look forward to the most all year long is Ramadan, in the communal aspect of it. You never have iftar alone, really. Yeah. Every single night, the mosque hosts an iftar, and not just the ICCM, but every mosque in the area has iftar for the community. And so that's been somewhat, it feels a little empty inside without that.
Mm-hmm. And I imagine that for people who live alone, it's maybe even more difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mostly this is about sort of reaching out and hearing from the Muslim community and how you're doing, but I can't resist asking you about your own race. And I would just love, without us spending too much time on it, I would love to kind of hear, why you're running, and just to say, feel free to talk a little bit about your race.
Well, I would say, I began this path, so to speak, back in 2016 when my son came home from school and he was crying that day. And the reason he was one of his friends at school had told him that they didn't like Muslims, and that, if Trump were ever elected, he would get rid of all the Muslims. And I mean, as a mom, that's just It broke my heart. And it was a real wake-up call to find out, you know, I had always been part of a very welcoming community. I've always done a lot of interfaith work. So sometimes you can clue out a little bit of those who are a little less tolerant, who don't know about us as much. And, you know, that really struck home. And I realized, okay, I can't stay within these same circles. I need to broaden out, and I need to find another path of service to make this a better world for our children to grow up in together. And so I started becoming more involved in activism and in politics, and I ran in 2017. And it was a very rewarding experience because people said, you know, we've never met a Muslim before, we've never had that interaction, and you've really changed our opinions. And many of the people who, you know, weren't with me the first time have come forward and said, we've learned so much about you, we're looking forward to you running. So for me, it's about service to the community first and foremost. It's about we always hear that phrase, representation matters. And you know, now that I see it, and now that I have members of our own community saying, you know, I never thought that we could run for office, and we have children saying, one day I want to run for office like you. It's opening doors, it's opening minds. So there's that aspect of it. And then there's also, you know, the issues aspect of it, which I believe the current crisis has shown us so much how precarious our situation is as a society when healthcare is tied to employment.
That's right.
People can't even go to the doctor to get tested because it would bankrupt them. But yet it's a public health issue that everybody gets tested, that everybody has access to healthcare. I mean, we're finding out we're only as strong as our weakest link. Yeah. And people now, you know, we hear in the news all the time that families are living paycheck to paycheck, and they're only one missed paycheck away from complete financial ruin.
And that just happened. for all those families, that just happened.
Yeah, and it becomes a litany, you know, and you almost become numb to it. But now that this has happened, people are seeing what those effects are. And when you have such a wide swath of our society, of our workers who are living this way, then our economy is so fragile. Our society is so fragile. So I believe it's time that we start looking at these policies that lift workers up, that lift people up and families up out of poverty, so that we all have a solid foundation, a baseline of a quality of life. And that should be something very simple to do in the United States of America, in Massachusetts, as wealthy of a country as we are.
Absolutely. Hear, hear. I am totally with you on that one. By the way, if anybody wants to comment, ask questions, we'll take those questions live. So feel free to just comment in the YouTube comment section. Wonderful. So I know candidates are very busy. If you can stick around and be on at the same time as, like a little bit later as Paula and JT, that would be great, but I also completely understand if there are other things that you have to do. So yeah, is there any final words that you want to say, talk about in terms of the Muslim community or the work that you're doing right now under COVID?
I would say if there's anybody who's experiencing food insecurity within the community, we do have a food bank right now at the mosque. So please feel free to send us a message, and we'll work really hard to help bring those supplies to you. I've been out into the community myself, taking supplies to families and dropping them off. We do a no contact delivery. So, know that we're here also for everybody else. We're members of this community, and we're looking forward, just like everybody, to when we can reopen and host all of you again.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Great. I am going to bring in Paula.
Hello.
One second. Let me switch this here. Paula, you are live. So this is Paola Masoli with Mothers Out Front. Paola, if you can introduce yourself and a little bit about Mothers Out Front, that would be great.
Sure. Let me see the and you can see okay.
We're having a little bit of, sounds like connectivity problems. So I don't know what your data reception is like right now.
Can you hear me?
Unfortunately, we're getting a lot of sort of connectivity issues, so it's very difficult to understand you. Maybe let's try again in a second or two, or if there's a place near you that you get better data. I like the idea of doing it without video, that maybe we'll get better audio. Try speaking again. Unfortunately, we just do not. Yeah, we are not able to. It's not understandable. We had this idea earlier today that maybe we would just call you on the phone and we won't be able to see your face, or maybe leave your. No, yeah, it's unfortunately just not working. We might be able to. The video is actually not too bad. So if you mute your audio, I'm going to call you on the phone and we will have that play, if that sounds good to you. So you're welcome to put your video up if you'd like. Otherwise, we'll just go.
Hi, I think I'm in.
Great. So we can hear you fine now. Awesome.
Yeah, I'm very sorry. This was not the way I wanted to be, but it was nice to briefly see you and see Nicole and see JT, which was very briefly.
Yeah, great. Awesome. So I will just leave your name up here, but I'm going to not have your video on because we don't see you. If you want to turn your video on, that's fine, and I'll put you in there over Skype. So yeah, Paola, go ahead and let us know sort of a little bit about you and about Mothers Out Front.
Sure. First of all, thanks a lot for asking me to be on your show. This is really a great honor. It's great to talk to you. It's great to meet Nicole. It's a very inspiring story that we just heard. And so I am a Somerville resident. I live in East Somerville. I've been here for about 10 years. And I am a member of Mothers Out Front, which is a national organization that started in Massachusetts maybe 6 or 7 years ago. But since then, it's expanded nationwide and is doing a lot of great work all over the U.S. For people who don't know the organization, as the name suggests, this was started by a few moms who were very worried about the climate change crisis and decided to get together and do something. And they decided to target one of the most pressing issues that we are actually having, which are methane emissions that are coming from the extraction of gas, which in the U.S. has been going up extremely rapidly in the last 10 years.
So you're talking about natural gas, right?
Yes. So we don't call it natural because there's not much natural about natural gas.
I know. I'm with you. I just wanted, because gas, when I think of gas, it's like gasoline for the car.
So we try to call it gas because, the name natural actually gives this false idea that it's, all good and great. But basically, the mission of Mothers Out Front is to bring the collective power of mothers to push for legislative change and move decision makers to take action against climate change. and to also build an inclusive community and also work on climate justice. So actually much of what Nicole was saying resonated with me, because some of the things that she was talking about, pointing out, the injustices and the inequalities and all the problems that we're experiencing right now with the access to public health infrastructure are really common to the climate crisis, and what people that belong to minority communities, belong to communities of color, are experiencing when it comes to climate-related disasters.
Mm-hmm.
So at the state and local level, we are working on several issues. In particular, at the state level, there's been a lot of activity in the last few years in support of the community in Weymouth that has been for now 5+ years, trying to stop the construction of a compressor station, which is a piece of the gas distribution infrastructure for a pipeline that would bring actually the gas to Canada. So that's been a constant and ongoing source of engagement.
And the Weymouth compressor station, as I understand, this 5-year battle to prevent this new infrastructure for fossil fuels coming to, a not wealthy community in Massachusetts, because when you build new infrastructure, then the only way to get the money back from that investment is to do more fossil fuel extraction for the next 20 or 30 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And actually, so you pointed out two very important things. First of all, the Weymouth area is actually an environmental justice community because they have an history of pollution, and they also have an history of higher than average rates of cancer and leukemia, heart disease. So it's actually an environmental justice community already, so they don't need extra pollution on top of that. And also you pointed out the fact that, these big pieces of infrastructure lock you in using more fossil fuels for the next 20 or 50 years, which is absolutely the thing that we cannot do for, the climate crisis. And in addition to that, this situation that we are in, brought by the COVID pandemic, has really exposed the fact that fossil fuel infrastructure in general is just a bunch of stranded assets. I mean, there is no economic viability of building any more of what we have, because the price of oil and the price of gas has reached basically negative value a few days ago. So there is an entire economic argument that really points to the fact that this infrastructure is not needed, is not economically viable for the community and even for the state, and only few people will really profit from it.
Yeah. And can I ask you, I know that you've been particularly involved here in Somerville with the problem with gas leaks. So natural gas, which is not natural, right? The methane that is pumped into our houses to supply heating. That these the infrastructure in Somerville leaks, and in other places as well. I know this is a problem in Medford, and it's a problem across the state, that it leaks so much that, and I'm going to let you finish this sentence. How bad is it? How bad are these leaks in Somerville and Medford?
It's pretty bad statewide, and it's actually really bad all over the East Coast because the infrastructure is really old, and old infrastructure is leak prone. So this is a problem that actually has been, has been going on for a while and has been known and quantified for a while. And actually there is an organization that is based in Cambridge called HEAT, Home Energy Efficiency Team, that have been pioneering at different levels from the research and the advocacy with people from different universities over here in Massachusetts, methods to actually try to quantify the leak rates. Yes, gas leaks are a problem from the environmental point of view. They're a problem because they're dangerous. Gas is explosive, and there have been accidents that we had to go through in the last few years, and also kills trees. Gas actually asphyxiate root trees, and so the one reason why I actually got involved with Mothers Up Front is because I live in an area that is actually pretty gas leak prone because the infrastructure is a little bit older than the rest of Somerville. And we realized with my neighbors that there were many dead trees around us. And so that's how I found out about Mothers Up Front. And so I began to be involved about 3 years ago. And it's been great. I learned a lot. And we also had several successes. We've been working with the city. The city has been extremely supportive in terms of working with the utilities and trying to figure out what are the best times that the city and the utilities can actually work and fix these leaks. This is extremely disruptive type of work. So roads have to be closed. You have to open up the streets. So it is pretty involved. But in the last couple of years, we've been making quite a bit of progress actually in Somerville. So we are really happy, but there's a lot more to do.
Great. And as long as we have gas flowing through those lines, we've got to fix them. But ideally, we move totally away from fossil fuels, and then we'll never need to repair those again.
Yes. So the best would be to completely move away from using gas, which of course requires an entire different plan. So it requires some serious policy structure and policy plan. It requires, collaboration with a lot of entities. So unfortunately, it cannot be done as quickly as we want it to. Yeah. And so sometimes the best thing to do is actually repair the leak and keep using gas. Although, the long game is to actually get rid of gas altogether. And there is actually a lot of movement on that front as well. Probably many of you know that California is really quickly moving away from using gas in new constructions. Right now, I think 15 cities, including large cities like San Jose, Berkeley, have actually passed ordinances to establish that there will not be any more gas in new buildings.
Wow.
And so they're basically going through, so the plan is to electrify everything eventually. And so they're starting from new buildings because it is actually easier to start a full electric building from scratch rather than retrofit, for a lot of reasons. So in New England, there's also the problem of very old housing stock, and we're one of the Somerville is one of the densest cities in the whole New England area. So the percentage of our housing that is new is small. Yeah, but there is construction going on. So I mean, Somerville, and also actually in the Boston area, there's so much construction going on, and so much construction has been happening in the last few years that honestly, I can actually make a list of many missed opportunities. So it is true. The housing stock is mostly already built, but it's good to start from the new constructions because it's actually easier to do. Yeah. And it can be, and there's a lot going on actually already in Boston. I mean, there are plenty of examples of all electric buildings. And they're cheaper to run, they're healthier because you're not burning gas inside, and so you don't have pollution coming from your gas stove. So it is, it's, from the public health perspective and from the economic perspective, it is the way to go. But we need a lot to happen in terms of, again, legislation and policy to make it happen in a consistent way.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the work that you are doing here and that Mothers Out Front is doing all over the country is very important. I know, sort of, uplifting the stories of the health stories that happen to people because of these gas leaks, because of the Weymouth compressor station. And also the trees. I remember you talking about, these trees that have died and going there and actually testing the ground and finding that it's so much more gas in that soil than is allowable. So those things are really important as well.
Yeah, and it's actually, it's definitely, right now, of course, we're all kind of doing not much in terms of, actions and legislative activity that is a little bit slowed down, but we are still, meeting online and organizing. I'm actually also part of the National Health Impact team, and in that capacity, I'm mostly working on the school bus campaign, because one other thing that Mothers Up Front is also doing across the country is to actually work with school districts and with the utilities and parents and teachers to try to get rid of diesel school buses and replace them with electric school buses.
Great.
So, which is also a different problem. But it's very exciting, and again, we are very lucky in Somerville because everybody is very supportive, and so it's easier than in other places, I would imagine.
Yeah.
So, in fact, as I speak, that big gas line that has been leaking outside of my street is being replaced. So,
excellent.
The city, so
well
the
done.
city has accelerated, the replacement to try and do it before the street would be repaved, which is convenient for everybody and saves money and time for everybody. And so we are very happy that there is this coordination happening lately between utilities and city to actually do repair before repaving, which is really the smart thing to do.
Great. Are there any ways that people can get involved in Mothers Out Front?
Yeah, so there is a website. It's mothersoutfront.org. And from that website, you can actually go into your local team. You will see, different states, and then you go into Massachusetts, and then you can join your team. And I think there is also a team in Medford, if I'm not mistaken. So, right now, as I said, we are still connected online, and there's always thing to do. So,
great.
more hands on deck are very welcome, because this is a lot of work to do. So there is no shortage of ways to get involved.
That's right. I love that you say more hands on deck, because I always talk about it is an all hands on deck moment for climate and other things. Well, thank you so much. It's been really great talking to you and hearing.
Thank you.
Yep. Hearing more about the work you guys are doing. So glad that things are moving forward in terms of Somerville, and we will keep pushing on the Weymouth compressor station. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Anna, and I am very sorry that I could not connect via Skype and via video, but I am glad that this has worked somehow.
Me too. Yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye. And the next guest that we're going to have on is JT Scott, who is a Somerville City Councillor. I'm going to remove Paula's name and Mothers Out Front and put yours. Aha. I've got you in, JT. JT, how are you doing? Yeah, we don't have your audio. Great.
There we go. Now I'm back. Yeah, I have no idea how to answer those questions nowadays. How are you doing? We're getting by, right? We're getting by.
Yeah. Nothing is as it was.
But I got to tell you, I was really excited when you asked me to come by, especially just because, it's always good to hear from people who are running and what you're working on, what you're really excited about. And also because Paula is just incredible, and the work she's done with Mothers Out Front in Somerville. The work with the Weymouth compressor is absolutely essential, and that's the kind of thing that a state rep can have more influence in. But here at the city level, it makes a difference for our quality of life. It makes a difference for our air pollution. It makes a difference for our trees staying alive, our environment, our very local environment being healthy. So I always love to hear from Paula and what she's working on. And also for Nicole. So I don't know, Nicole, are you still on?
She is, and I can. You know what? I'm going to bring her in a couple minutes. I want to have you by yourself just for a minute or two.
All right.
If that's all right, and then we'll pull Nicole in.
All right.
First of all,
don't go anywhere, Nicole. Screen with you.
So JT, I didn't even really introduce you. I would love you to talk a little bit about who you are, and really we're focusing on COVID-19 and how it's affecting Somerville and Medford. And if you can talk to us about what's happening at the city council like now and what you guys are doing around COVID-19.
Wow. So that's a huge question, because everything is kind of about COVID-19 right now.
Yeah.
But honestly, the work has been pretty intense over the last 8 weeks. And I think, the nice thing about a really active city council like we have here in Somerville is that
so we're having a little bit of trouble understanding you as well, JT. Give me just a second. How's your data? Is it
my yes, and
I hate to say it, but I actually cannot understand you. It's that bad. It makes me wonder if maybe it is my data, but I hope it's not. You think it might be mine? It might be mine.
I think it is.
I'm on a 5G network. That's usually pretty good. You know what? I'm actually going to move from my lovely background here. Background will probably, hey, we're all in COVID-19, right? So everybody knows that you're at home and things look weird. And I'm gonna plug right into the internet here. I'm going to hardline it. So I can get my lights to work. There we go. If I can get this in here.
I did the exact.
Just one second. Oh, and of course, my computer does not have this kind of jack. Say another couple things.
Sure. Actually, yeah, since we're not speaking on so I ran a while. We're all facing challenges right now.
We're all facing challenges. So I am going to ask, I'm going to do something here. Can I have one of those? Because I can't hear through mine.
So we all hear the same thing. We cannot hear JT. You can hear.
Okay, so apparently everybody hears the same thing that I hear, which is that folks can hear me fine, but they can't hear you. Drat. You know what? Here's what I would love. Because this worked for Paula.
Sure.
Your video is actually fine. Totally fine. Leave your video on. Mute the audio. We'll have the audio by phone. I think that'll work great. So I have two numbers for you. I hate to read them off on. Do you end in 3-2 or end in 2-1? Great.
All right.
Fantastic. Okay, so we can see you and now we can hear you. Wonderful.
All right. Lovely. So I'm just trying to figure out how to do this.
The best thing is if you can mute the computer completely, not just yourself, but also mute the computer, and then use the phone for audio. That would work great.
All right. Well, now I can basically. All right. Sweet. Yeah, I think it is probably is a connection side. Unfortunately I could hear Paola perfectly well on the last segment too. So, but it's
wow.
we've been doing city council meetings online basically every night for the last 8 weeks. So having a solid connection is definitely something we all struggle to get to.
Mm-hmm.
So you asked a question about what's happening in the city in COVID-19, and I guess what I was trying to say is just that's a big question to answer because everything is COVID-19 right now. And even all of the struggles that were already there are being, I think, as Nicole very, very eloquently put, are being highlighted, are being emphasized. So, what's happening with COVID-19? Well, everything that was happening before, only more so, and with one hand tied behind our back, because we can't necessarily just go out in the community and knock on doors and talk to people like the way we used to. So yeah, there's a ton. I don't even know where to start with that.
Well, I'll ask you some questions. I mean, I know that a lot of great things have been passed in terms of making sure that we're all safe, that, kind of the whole shutdown and all of that. And Somerville was very early on in that. I would love to look a little bit at the future. What is the plan, right? How are you guys handling how many, do we have enough testing kits in Somerville? Is there any sort of a tracing plan, or is that something that the state will really take care of? Like, how does that side of things look from the city perspective?
So that's a great question, and it's a fairly complicated one. I think what I said earlier, one of the great things about having such a really active and engaged city council is that so many of us in these roles, in addition to the constituent services that we deliver to our wards, are working on advocacy around various aspects of this, working on policy in various aspects of this. So one of the things I'm engaged in right now is basically the task force to distribute $1 million in community development block grants to retail or ground level small businesses in Somerville. And so we just closed applications for that, got an enormous number of them. We're not going to be able to help everybody, but finding with the other people on this task force, what we can do to help these really essential cornerstone businesses that mean a lot to the community, that are either delivering vital and unique services to their neighborhoods or have an outsized role in terms of their efforts in the community and their legacy. So that's one piece that I could give probably an example for everybody on the city council. The question you ask about testing kits and policies, the city council was very early in encouraging the mayor to move to the kind of restrictions, the lockdown restrictions that we currently have in place. And I think that's where the advocacy helps, because it built the momentum that Somerville could do it, and Cambridge could do it, surrounding communities. Eventually Boston came on board. And what we've seen over and over is what Somerville does kind of 3 days later, Baker does. And that's...
Well done. Give him a push there.
And it's a team effort.
Yeah.
If we couldn't get Mayor Joe on board, then it would stop there, right? So and if he can't get other regional mayors on board, it stops there. So it is absolutely a team effort, and we're all just pulling together. But that said, most of those restrictions are executive orders, and the restrictions statewide are executive orders. So the danger comes when those executive actions happen without consultation or against the advice or advocacy of the legislature. And that's why I think it's really important to have not just a responsive legislature, but an activist legislature. So some people who are really public in their advocacy, and I love what Brett McKinley, he's my state rep, is doing around that, and he's shown leadership around that. And so when you say look to the future, what really concerns me is that right now we've had yesterday and today cases in Massachusetts increased. Today dramatically so, and yet the governor is still talking 5 days from now about opening everything up. I mean, he started with gun shops and golf courses. It's difficult. It's difficult because I'm grateful for the governor's responsiveness. And, if you're grading on a curve of 50 states, how does that go? But when you're grading on an international curve, even within the United States, Massachusetts is third in terms of cases per capita and deaths per capita. Like, that is absolutely a failure. And I understand people like the way he delivers this message, but what's been lacking there is leadership. So, it's the advocacy around that. It's working with, working with epidemiologists, working with colleagues, trying to build that broader understanding. This isn't really the time to blame anybody for what's happened. I'm just trying to focus on doing what I can to keep as many people safe as possible. And
can I ask you a little question about that? Like, I think some of the stuff that Somerville has done amazingly well is to provide aid to people. Can you talk a little bit about what sort of things are available, like even to people who are listening here, like how they can look to the city of Somerville for some of their needs during COVID?
Well, I'd say yes, absolutely look to the city of Somerville. Also look to your neighbors. I want to absolutely shout out Mutual Aid Medford in Somerville is a group of it is grassroots. It is sometimes block by block. And this is just neighbors helping neighbors. If you haven't seen a flyer in your neighborhood for Mutual Aid Medford in Somerville, go to mutualaidmamas.com and sign up to be your block point person and put up the flyers, because even a couple weeks ago, a completely volunteer, completely unfunded organization had distributed over $80,000 in direct aid to people. And that's in addition to giving people rides places, bringing people groceries, handling small things that otherwise would be impossible for people to take care of. The work they manufactured hand sanitizer in bulk for our elder care facilities. So that group has really been outstanding, and that's kind of my dream of the world I want to live in.
I know. They were our very first show was one of the founders of Mamas.
Great. Yeah, I've been talking them up at the city council since the idea was just a Google Doc, and I keep shouting them out as many chances as I can get. But I will say there's been incredible leadership from the Somerville School District. Tens of thousands of meals handed out, over 500 laptops distributed, not just laptops, but also wireless access for families that didn't have a computer at home, didn't have internet access at home. And that could be important for distance learning, but frankly, that's just important for getting by right now. I've constantly said if we are going to ask people to stay home because of the public health importance of it, we have to give them the resources to do that.
Absolutely.
Whether that's food, whether that's making sure they don't have to pay rent, whether that's getting them just demonstrate the importance of broadband access as a utility. There's so many different points of advocacy. There's so many inequities that are being highlighted by this. Like I said, it's tough to know where to start, but absolutely those two organizations, the school district and Mutual Aid Mamas, were at the lead there. But now, the mayor announced there's enhanced mask, mass distribution happening. We're emphasizing mass distribution in the places where we're seeing most of it, like in the 02145 section of town. There's, like I said, this small business block grant program that's going to hopefully help people weather the storm. Again, just trying to give people the resources to keep their businesses closed until we can get to a place where it's safe.
Yeah.
And we're not there. It is catastrophic when I consider that today Massachusetts had more new cases reported than Germany as a country. And Germany, in response to about 70% as many cases we had, brought back lockdown restrictions while we were talking about releasing ours. It's an absolute failure, and we need to do better.
So I could talk to you forever, and I'm wondering if you're okay with it. I would love to see if Paula and Nicole are still around. So if Paula and Nicole, if you guys are still here, go ahead and turn on your video. Paula, hopefully we can get you in. Great. Nicole is, oh good. Let me add Nicole.
Cool.
I got Nicole. Fantastic.
It is so good to meet you, Nicole.
Good to meet you too, JT.
Oh, you know what? I've got my computer audio off, so I can't hear anybody but Anna. But
you know
what? No. I'm going to figure out a way to do this. I'm just going to turn that volume down. All right.
And so, I'm gonna bring in a couple of seconds for you guys, and then I'll bring Paula in.
All right. So it's a pleasure to meet you. I just wanted to say I was visiting a friend and ended up seeing a flyer. This had to be like late February. You've been campaigning for a long time out there, haven't you?
I have been. Got to get an early start.
Well, you're taking on an incumbent, yes?
Yeah, so I'm taking on, Paul Donato, very, great state rep, but, he's been in office, just state rep, for going on 20 years now. And, while I admire anybody who has the guts to serve in public office, I hear what you're saying, too, about the stats that our state is facing. And everybody in leadership shares in that, especially the House, where a lot of the legislation that you're talking about that could help municipalities is getting bogged down in a very untransparent, opaque process. And nobody knows why. And, you have to really dig to find out what's going on, and that's what I've been doing. And I believe we need someone in there who's going to stand up for our district, who's going to do what's best for our working class families with an eye to the future. I've got 3 children, and just like everybody else's children and who are parents, we want what's best for them. And this isn't it. What we have right now, it's not it. It's a mess.
That is an understatement. I think you put it very well. The leadership team shares an incredible amount of blame, and being willing to stand up and advocate. That's when I talk about having an activist, really public voices about this. That's what we need. That's what I really admire about the state reps that, well, first of all, represent my district. We have no overlap. Actually, I don't even have any overlap with Anna. But
I love Mike. He's awesome.
We all love Mike. Who doesn't love Mike?
That is true.
It's... Sorry, it's been a long day of working on this.
No worries. I've never had 4 people on. I don't know how it's going to position people in the frame. Let me give it a shot. I'm going to bring Paula in here as well. Aha!
Hi.
Nice.
We are see everybody.
4 like that. Great. I'm just going to move the names around. So JT is over there.
Hi,
Nicole
JT.
is there. Paula is here. Oh, wonderful. Good to see everybody.
Hi, Paola.
Hi, Nicole. It was nice to meet you.
Yeah.
And it's nice to see JT.
So, Nicole, this being your second time, it's got to be tough coming in thinking, all right, I've got lessons learned, I've got a plan, I'm ready to rock and roll, I'm starting early. I saw your flyer at a friend's house and went and looked you up to figure out a little bit about what you were about. And then all of a sudden, for it all to get thrown up into the air, not just because of these circumstances, but because you yourself were sick for a while, correct?
Yeah, so right before the stay-at-home orders were issued, I became sick, and it happened very suddenly within the space of a few hours. And then within just like 2-3 days, our whole family had it. All 3 kids, my husband. I never want to be that sick ever again. And so my heart goes out to everybody who's having to deal with this right now. And I can't beg you enough. Those masks, these stay-at-home orders, they're no jokes. You don't want to catch this. You can survive, but I'm telling you, it's not good. Not good.
Well, I'm very glad your whole family came through this. And, it's, I guess, the question that I think all candidates are working with right now, you and Anna, is how to campaign in this age, how to actually get out and reach people. I know that, when I ran for the first time in 2017, it was just a matter of knocking on all the doors and talking to all the people, because there is so much we have in common, regardless of, you have a Trump sign in your lawn or a Hillary sign. These things will cross these boundaries. It really is about class in a lot of ways. So that's, I guess my question is, how, for both of you, what is that key message that you're getting to trying to get out to your district, to trying to get people to hear? And then before we log off, Anna, to answer your question, I really want to make a pitch for one of the public health services that's available in Somerville. But I want to hear these answers.
Nicole, you want to go first?
How about you take a turn, Anna?
Sure. It's funny because this is such a listening session. Every week I'm listening and hearing stories from the district and bringing in experts to figure out how we can solve these together. So I don't really talk about my race on the show, but now's my opportunity. Thank you, JT. I'm running because I really believe that we cannot, I think the other side has the money and we have the people. But if that's true, we cannot win if we're preaching to the choir. I think we will not win a Green New Deal if we don't have a movement behind it. I think we will not win Medicare for all if we don't have a movement behind it. I've been training people for 4 years in a style of in how to build movements through local electoral organizing. And I see the primary role of an elected official as a movement builder. And I think we must have movement builders as elected officials, because that is the only way that we will get the policies that we want, need, and deserve. So I am running to be a movement builder in the district and across the state, with some very specific tactics that I learned from some amazing union organizers and other elected officials and other folks, like very specific tactics that I've been sort of training people in for years now. And I'm excited to do it as an elected official.
Very cool. Very cool. I mean, I agree. And I know you mostly from your activism in those spheres. So how about you, Nicole?
So I would say, when I knock on someone's door and I get to meet them the first time, I'm always, a little shy, but it's mainly about them. I want to hear what they have to say and what issues are important to them, because we're a community and we're all neighbors. And the main message that I want to get across to everybody is that we all struggle together, and we need somebody who has that mindset. We need somebody who hasn't forgotten, where their roots are at. I grew up my mom was single mom trying to raise me, and we were homeless for a period of time. And I know what it's like to go dumpster diving in the back of a store for your dinner at night. And I know what it's like to, not have a roof over your head, but only the comfort of your mother's arms around you at night. And I know some children don't even have that. And I believe that perspective has made me open to other people's experiences and their situations. And so I see that everybody works hard regardless of their circumstances and deserves to be able to have a better life and be honored for that hard work. And I don't think we have that in a society anymore. We put people down. We've lost sight of that humanity. And so because I come from a more, I guess, service and faith type of background, I got started on this path, working at a mosque, being an administrator and getting involved in government work. And so I want to share with everybody that passion for service that I have, and that, I've had to fight so much throughout my whole life, lots of struggles. And so that's really molded me and crafted me to where I know when I need to take a stand, and I know when it's time to take a step back and let others lead. And I hope people will see that and respond to that message.
Awesome.
Thank you so much. I really could stay on this call for a long time, but I believe it or not, candidates have busy schedules, and I have a meeting starting now. It's okay.
Shout out to Paola, because I was listening to everything that you said, and your work is absolutely amazing. I wasn't aware of your organization, Moms Out Front, so I'm very interested in learning more. I'd love to get involved, because those issues with the gas pipes that you were talking about, same thing in Malden. They just ripped up my street, a couple months ago to do the exact same thing.
Yeah. I don't know if I should give the conclusive remarks over here, because I'm totally, I don't know. I don't feel I have the the closing remark kind of skill, but
we'll let GT wrap it up. Go ahead.
I'm very inspired by you guys, by you, Anna, and Nicole running, and by all the work that GT you've been doing, and all the people that you have mentioned. Mike was also my rep, and I'm very, very happy about it. So it's really inspiring at this moment, where people like me in the more in the climate movement feel completely left abandoned, and especially on top of that, me who has a scientific background feels even more like crushed, because science has been torn apart and destroyed and mystified and completely trashed. So it's in some parts, not everywhere. So it's really inspiring to see people like you engaged and also ready to change minds and hearts and ready to do the work. Because a lot of people want to give up, and we really cannot give up right now. So it's extremely inspiring, and I'll be happy to touch base with you, Nicole. If you want to talk about gas leaks, I can tell you everything about gas leaks.
I would love to.
Great.
You will have to say stop it.
I'm gonna have JT say a final word, and then I hate to do it, but I'm gonna have to close out.
Sounds good. I can use the rest. And Nicole, she's not kidding. She will tell you all about gas leaks.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah.
And it will be a worthwhile experience.
Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely. Google Mothers Out Front, incredible organization doing incredible work. And like I said about the city council and about all of us, and whether you're on a city, town board, or in the state legislature or part of our federal delegation, we all have to pull together, and we have to be part of this movement. And that's one of the beautiful things about it, is I know, even when I'm not focused today on natural gas leaks, I know that Paola is, and I know that she has my ear, and that I have, I'm giving her my respect and attention. so that I can pull along with her in solidarity.
And can I also say,
you know,
many other people in Massachusetts, in Somerville, around the country, I kind of came to this group like late. So tons of people before me have done the work.
Yeah.
So I just want to recognize everybody in this group. Sorry, I have to say that.
No, absolutely. We all stand on the shoulders of giants, and we get by with a little help from our friends.
That's right.
Yep.
I will say that just as a final plug, in terms of testing, we do have access to about 4,000 tests in Somerville, and we're really trying our best to make sure that we are completely consuming that capacity. We can do somewhere between 100 and 150 tests a day at the Somerville Hospital. You can walk up, you can bike up, you can drive up. It's accessible to anybody. You don't need an ID. You don't need citizenship. You don't need papers. You don't need anything. Just call the number, make a reservation, and get in there to get tested, because that data, we have a lot more visibility and granularity in than the state data. And when we see the lack of leadership that we've seen at the state level, it makes it even more important that we can gather great data here at the local level and use that to make the argument about what responsible policy is and what we have to do, whether that's legislatively or through executive orders or through advocacy, to make sure it carries forward at the state level. Also, it's just a great way to try to keep our neighbors safe. So if you've been waiting, thinking, oh, other people need those tests, they're completely free. They're available to all Somerville residents. Sorry, Nicole. And they are, make the call. Let's get in there. Let's use up all those tests, and we will find more.
Great. Thank you all so much. It's been wonderful talking to you all. Thanks so much for all the work that you do. And thanks for tuning in. We will be back in a couple of weeks. Have a good night.
Good night.
Bye.